Welcome to Ramble On, the official podcast of the unofficial television show. I want people to know how this show goes down. Ramble On is such a perfect name for it because we have no plan. We have no talk. I haven't spoken to Ted in at least a week for more than a minute and a half. So I have absolutely no idea what we're going to talk about. What I do know is at this current moment, I have no job and no reason to do anything except for get ready to have a baby that's coming any minute. I don't have a name. I don't have a job.
You don't have a name for the baby?
I don't have a future except for this baby. I don't have a name for the baby. No. So there's nothing new on Ramble On. That's what this podcast was supposed to be. We were supposed to be in production right now where we go, oh, it was day one and Connolly came in and fucking punched the gaffer and it was crazy and we'd have all these stories. But there's no stories. And there's nothing bad. There's nothing good. There's absolutely nothing happening. We have allegedly the biggest agent in the business repping the show. Nothing happens. We have one of the great production companies in the business that gave us the green light to do this, but nothing has happened. And I have nothing left to say about this show. And I need to say that I was never supposed to be, by the way, and I guess you weren't really either, but you didn't know that. I was never supposed to be the guy that sold this. I was supposed to do what I did, which was make a great pilot, and I did. Then I wrote a free second episode, which is, I don't mean free to you, just like I did it. And we have that. But not one person has said they don't like this show, but we're nowhere. So I said to you last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, let's just put it on the fucking internet. You know what I really want to do? This was my big idea.
Oh.
We get on Shark Tank because, you know, I have a friend who he got on Shark Tank with a thing called the Dude Rope. And I love Howie Bush and I want you to make $10 million. But it was the most ridiculous idea I heard because it was just terry cloth shorts and a top that had like a spot to put your remote control. And it was called the Dude Robe and it was a robe for dudes. And they laughed him off the set, basically. But now, 4 years later, because he was on Shark Tank and you got such an enormous audience, he's still selling lots of these things, and it's like his career, the Dude Robe. So everybody do me a favor, because I'm not making fun of him, but go buy the Dude Robe. So we help that
Do you
business.
own a Dude Robe?
I do, but they sent it to me. I own a Victory.
I don't own one. If they send it to me, I'll try it.
Do you want me to get you a Dude Robe?
Yeah, I mean, you know, why not at this point?
But my point is,
I don't want to leave any stone unturned at this point.
My argument, which will always be this, is if we get this show out into the universe and we get the crowd to watch it, it's going to work. I know it. I would
zero
bet
doubt.
most of the money that I have left on this proposition.
I spent most of the money I have left.
But why don't we go on Shark Tank? And basically what I did at our pitch with our production company that was giving us a formal offer almost 30 days ago.
Almost 60 days ago.
No, it's not that long, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Hawaii the second week of October, and we had that meeting 3 or 4 weeks earlier than that.
So I want you to understand.
We were like maybe around the 10th to 15th of September.
So just like with Entourage, you go in, you pitch, and you tell them what you have. And with Entourage, which is so rare to happen, in the room, the people go, let's do this. Now, again, just like what let's do this meant for Entourage was here's $50,000. Now go write a script that we're going to legitimately bust your balls on every syllable.
Chop it up.
For the next 2 years. We're going to torture you. We're going to say things, which they did. I had the executive who worked on it with Entourage go, you know, we didn't hire you, even though it was a stand-up comedian, by the way. We didn't hire you for the comedy, but we thought this would be mildly amusing. That was honestly one of the notes I got during the course of Entourage. So I want every young writer out there to understand
what the hell
the people that are out there who know absolutely nothing, who think they do. And the one thing I've always been pretty certain of, whether Ted agrees with this or not, I'm usually the funniest person in the room. Again, I'm not even asking you to debate it, because Ted probably thinks he is as well. And that's
I don't know.
But my point is they would abuse me in ways that maybe if in 2022 might be considered like
harassment.
Cancelable, like harassment. So I would get comments like that, but I would keep going. But still, they said, let's do this. And then an hour later, they were on with my agent and they made a deal, a small deal. Now, the difference is, let's do this for this show. I guess means $50 million instead of $50,000. But
Perhaps.
still, the meeting was, let's do this. We love this. Let's move forward. And now here we are. You're saying 60 days later. I'm days away from having a baby, and nothing's happened. Now they have contacted my attorney more to like make dinner plans with him because they're friends than actually put a
deal together,
formal deal together. So I'm not sure what we can talk about, but I have a couple of things in my life, and we can talk about yours as well. But
well, I mean, I think what's interesting about this, and by the way, you and I have not really spoken much. This is the longest period of time we've gone without having probably 10 to 12 conversations a day.
Yeah.
I was traveling last week. You were busy. I think that's exactly what the audience wants to hear. The reality is, I've been spending a little bit of time analyzing things over the last week, especially since I had
your life.
Well, yes, my life, but also with this particular project. The reality is, people don't really understand what this business is like. You've been in it for 30 years plus.
I wrote the definitive guide to this business, and I don't understand what this business is like.
Well, that'll tell you something.
This last 90, 120 days has been stuff that I've never seen ever. I mean, I think it's because we did something that nobody does, which is make a spec television pilot, and nobody really knows exactly how to handle that. And we don't have deals with anybody, so I think people are a little confused about that. But anyway,
maybe, but these are just sort of observations, and I'm the outsider, right? Like I have not been in this business, so I'm seeing it for the first time. I'd like to consider myself relatively intelligent and certainly observant, so I can
relatively intelligent to who? Towards me? I mean, like in the
on
whole
a relative
world?
basis.
Yeah, which scale?
Towards you,
okay.
I'm slightly less intelligent.
No, I wasn't. I was asking.
But
the real question.
On a relative basis, I think I fall into the plus
Above
side
average.
the plus side of the column as opposed to the bottom side.
All right.
So it's astonishing. I came from the tech world, right? Like where I made my first tranche of money in life.
Tranche
was I ran a semiconductor test equipment company. It's as high tech as you can possibly get. We worked every day. We worked 15 hours a day. We planned to work on Saturdays. You did whatever you could to not only make your product great, but also make the customers happy and make money and grow and do everything we could. And we did it with, like, my running shoes were on every day. There was never a day I was like, I'd really rather, just spend the morning doing nothing. I'll watch some TV and then I'll go get some lunch, pickleball. There was none of that that was happening. And there was nobody in my circle. And I don't mean like people that worked around me or for me. I'm talking about nobody in the business wasn't doing the exact same thing I was doing. They were killing themselves, trying to crush it. Everybody was trying to be successful. Everybody was growing. And we worked with, I was not a multi-billion-dollar company at that time, but we worked with multi-billion-dollar companies every single day, and everybody showed up. Yeah. I'm now here in this world. I don't know what anybody does.
Yeah. Well, it's the tragedy, the inefficiency in this business, and the difficulty of when you're a writer, a director, you're essentially an entrepreneur every single day, but most of the time nobody's paying you to do that unless you have a big overall deal. So, whereas I encourage younger people to be doing this, like, I could be writing something new every single day, so I could move on to this. But as I said to, my fiance, if this doesn't get made, there's no reason for me to go do something else because I know how good this is, and that's not being blind or stupid or arrogant. I'm well aware of it. So if people aren't going to let me make this, I'm not going to go, make something else. And also, there's different ways that different people write. I have some friends watching the show last night who, when I told them what this was about, when 40 was about, they're like, oh, my friend had an idea. The idea is not the thing for me. For some people, it is the thing. For me, the characters and the execution are the thing. The idea behind Entourage, I find actually still to this day, it sounds pretty stupid to me. A movie star and his buddies in Hollywood. That's irrelevant to me because 8,000 different writers could write that show 8,000 different ways, and it doesn't matter. So what a lot of people, of course, are saying to me right now, what you should do? The pickleball movie. Now, a movie like Dodgeball, perfectly entertaining and this and that, that's not my thing.
No.
The way I integrated ping pong into Entourage is more of my thing. It's about these characters, and if the show goes, pickleball will be a part of it. But I'm not a concept guy who wants to go, the concept of the day is this. I'm more about the world and the culture of now, and how can I reflect that world in whatever characters I use. So anyway, keep going, because a lot of people have been DMing me. They want to hear more about your background, how you ended up in this place. But what you said is interesting. I've wasted 10 years of my life in this town by honestly, by being...
I don't think you've wasted it. I think you've spent it.
No, I've wasted it. There's not even like...
Maybe it's spent inefficiently.
That's not even a maybe. It's like I could, Stephen King wakes up every single day and writes. And, it's just hard to do it when people aren't paying you. You just go, okay. It starts to, even if you've been successful, you start to go, is this a hobby? Or is this a real job? Yeah. So, and part of me with this show, which I'm just like, okay, what is this at this point? Which is why I said to you last night, let's put it out to the universe. And I believe the word will spread. And then the people that kind of are sitting back, idling by, will go, okay, we need to move now. But anyway, that's my thought. So keep going.
Well, so one of the thoughts that I had about it is, especially in TV used to be network, right? There wasn't even cable at the time. It was, you watched
you're talking
257, the historical context of television. Yeah. And shows started at certain times. They both aired at certain times, certain days, certain hours, but typically new seasons were starting in September, kind of when kids went back to school. There were 22 episodes of network television or 24 episodes of network television. They ended around April or May. They took a summer break. They had different types of programming on, and then they would resume again. So TV had almost like a calendar system that it had breaks embedded in it. So I think a lot of the way people work in this town, I think it's a holdover, because at some point your mentor was one of those original people, and then they showed you how things worked, and then you did it, and then you keep passing it on. And it doesn't take that long to make decisions about these things, right? It takes time to write. Like, that's the very super intensive part. And it takes time to actually produce something and put it in production. But once it's done, and certainly edit it, but once somebody pitches you something, it's not like you spend 9 months going, well, I got to analyze data. And it's so much of this is a subjective gut. Do you have your finger on the pulse of what people want, or don't you? What's astonishing to me is all of these companies today that are providing you with content. It's not CBS, ABC, NBC, those typical people anymore. It's Amazon, Netflix, all the Paramount Plus, all those different platforms. They're all getting crushed. Like, you look at the stock market, lots of things are getting crushed in the stock market right now. But you look at the stock market, they have been getting absolutely decimated. If I was in their shoes running their companies, I would be feverishly working to figure that out.
They are.
But feverishly working isn't, I just cut people. Because cutting people is a short-term measure that actually makes no progress. It's not progress to cut people. What's progress is to bring in revenue. Yeah. And bringing in revenue, they only have one product. All of them. They all share in one product. What am I putting out there in front of a viewer that they're going to pay money to watch?
Yeah. Well, that's where they, and I'm not, going to sit and judge how they move. And again, we haven't shown it to those streamers to get a reaction that could take anywhere from 35 seconds to however long it takes. But, the difference in TV before there were networks, and the difference like with HBO, there was no, Entourage would have never made it on a network, even if that content could be on a network, because the network, like you said, they had a timeline of when they bought a show and when they put it into production. And they moved extremely quickly, and if they passed, that was it. It was over.
It was over.
So when HBO started doing it, it wasn't over. They could keep going as long as they, even though, by the way, they're not supposed to based on the Writers Guild, but they could keep going as long as they wanted because they had no schedule that they had to adhere to. Then now, when all the other streamers came in, the content became so much more content that they rushed into making as much stuff as possible. And then you ended up with looking at, the TV and going, oh my God, like I don't even know where to turn because there's four.
It's like the Cheesecake Factory menu.
Yeah, it's like 4 trillion
19
items.
pages.
Yeah, 4 trillion items. But still, to me, the best stuff has come out in the last, since HBO came out. The best stuff has come out. Even while there's many, many stuff that's terrible, the best stuff has come out.
Yeah.
But now you're living in this time where A, people are terrified of the culture wars, putting on the wrong thing or doing that. B, like you said, the job turnovers, because we're seeing amazing turnovers at HBO, Paramount Plus, Netflix. But again, that really is irrelevant to where we are right now. We've really been dealing with the representation process, and we've seen the people, huge people who've watched the show and said they love it. They're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they go on vacation.
Well, but I think that's exactly where I was leading to. So the conversations that I'm leading to, and I'm reminded there, I can't remember the name, and I'll try and bring it in next time. But there was a poet. He was a very sophisticated, but aimed at children, called Shel Silverstein. I don't know if you remember him. He wrote like Where the Sidewalk Ends and
another Jew running poetry. Huh?
It was he was a genius poet. And his books are probably 40 years old at this point, and you can get them anywhere. They're really great. But it's about this like, oh, how about we work this week and start pitching everybody? Well, Mondays in November are not good for this, and Tuesday, when I think about it.
By the way, when I heard.
It's just after Monday and people are just getting
When
in
I heard
office.
the Halloween one, that's when I kind of, like it's Halloween, nobody's going to be, I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on?
Well, that's exactly
here?
right. Like, so we just keep getting told and hearing, and it's not from one person, it's many people. Well, it's when it was in July, actually, we had kind of wrapped what I would call, the first verse edit of this show in like mid to end of June. We shot our second set of scenes, and we redid the opening in May. And by the time we were done editing that and everything, it was probably 1 or 2 weeks before July 4th. So we start talking to people and think, okay, we're gonna get rolling. July 4th is around the corner. Yep, it's June 22nd. Like July 4th is like 2 weeks from now.
Well,
yeah, but
everyone's in the Hamptons.
everybody's gearing up for July 4th. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. Okay, so when is July 4th over? Is it over on the 4th? Like, do they come back on the 5th? Is it the following Tuesday? Like, when is that?
They get ready for Labor Day right after
and
the
then
4th.
And then it was, okay, well, it'll be about July 8th when everybody comes back to the office. I went, okay, cool. And then around July 9th or 10th, we start talking. We say, okay, so should we start going out and talking to people? And well, lots of people are getting ready to go. Nothing happens in this town in August.
Yeah, they go to Europe and the Hamptons.
But it's July 12th. Like, that's 3 weeks from now. Yeah, but everybody's thinking about it. I'm like, how many things do you need to do? And then it was August. Everything was shut. Nobody even had a conversation in August. And then it was Labor Day weekend. And then it was, people are going to the Hamptons. People are, I'm okay, fine. And then it was Halloween. Like, literally, there's not a single day that you can name that somebody says, this is perfect, let's come in and meet.
The last one, when they told me it's Arbor Day, I'm like, I can't take
Arbor
this
Day.
anymore.
But anyway, so the reason why it reminded me of this this poem is it's about a child who doesn't want to go to school and is faking anything they can to be sick. Fevers, mumps, bruises, stomach, head, tears, fingernails, everything hurts. And then the mother says, but it's Saturday. Oh, it's Saturday? Well, then I'm going out to play.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the poem's about. And that's what this town feels like. It feels like that poem.
I don't like, Connolly seems to be heading towards the booth, which makes me extremely uncomfortable.
Oh.
That's usually when he looks at me, because he told me, we're doing this thing for Victory, or with this company Veritone, where they translate our...
Oh, into foreign languages?
Actually, they don't translate. Somehow they AI us into foreign languages, and the show will be simulcast. But Connolly said, we just took one of your Ramble On episodes where you were screaming for 25 minutes, and that's what's going to get translated. I don't really recall. Is Connolly in there? What's he doing? I don't like it.
Yeah, you're screaming for 90 minutes. It's not 25 minutes. It's 90 minutes. It's a very easy, simple 90 minutes of you screaming at nobody.
So, I mean,
Really?
by the way, that's where I'm starting to
Well, I
feel
wasn't
am.
screaming,
I'm
was I?
screaming
You were?
I'm screaming at the sky, and nobody's hearing me right now. And, you think of a poem, I keep listening. I'm just listening to Pink Floyd's Time every single day, which is like ticking away. And I'm like, I seriously can't believe it. And then I thought, like, while I was in the shower this morning, we're about 5 days away from when I go, I'm just going to write a pilot for last year, 1 year ago.
Yeah.
So the thing didn't even exist on November 14th, 2021. So I started writing it then, and we moved at such lightning pace, and we got into production at such lightning pace. The moment that really did hurt us.
Well, and by the way, I'm saying wrangled. We coordinated all of the people.
Yeah.
All of the production crew, all of the staff. If you remember, COVID was like a gigantic thing. We were worried we were going to be shut down every hour. Like, people had to test like multiple times a day. I think we spent $100,000 just on COVID tests.
And what's tragic is I still like our now beginning better than the original beginning I had. But once I brought that motherfucker onto this project who convinced me to change the opening, and nobody to a person liked the opening that we changed it to after we filmed it. But when we reshot and took that break, that's when Netflix stock tumbled. That's when HBO fired half of their
the world
staff. It truly did.
No,
and
it did.
again, I need everyone to understand, including Connolly, who's sitting there going, is this show not going? Because I think...
Did I miss something?
No.
There's nothing new.
No.
That's the sick thing. I feel like I'm frozen. Like, what was that movie with Peter Berg, which I actually kind of liked, where they were... Do you know, Connolly?
Well, I just got a panicked text message from Dave. That's why I came in here. Dave's like, Doug is threatening to release Ramble On the internet. He's saying he's retiring and he's releasing it on the internet.
Dave.
Scotty and I were like, hey,
When
we
you're
should
in
pop
that
back there and
booth
see
for
what's
this
going on.
show,
Yeah, you work for us.
need to have some loyalty.
My God.
There's some confidentiality. I mean, you're ratting us out to the boss.
And by
What
the way,
Dave nobody will take it harder than Dave. Trust me.
Yeah, but I need to say...
Except you, Ted.
well, I don't know about that, because money is one thing, emotions are another. Dave, who read for Connolly's
Yeah,
role
I
at
still
one
think
point.
that Ted's gonna. I'm with Ted on this one.
But there's no new information, and I'm so frustrated because as I age, time is really imperative.
Yeah.
And I wrote the second episode almost 2 months ago already, and I was so in the mode to just go,
Lord.
let me get the season just done.
done.
And then all of the nonsense of nothing happening, just the depression sinks in, the lack of motivation sinks in, and you go, what's the fucking point? And it's like I talk to Charlie like fucking 3 times a day, and I somehow feel like I'm responsible to
Build
give
him
him
up.
daily, not to build him up, but to give him daily updates, and I don't have a single thing to say. If at least, by the way, you know, it's like, which is a terrible analogy, but when you have an aging parent who is in a bad way, you know you're in that frozen state where sometimes you go, it would be better for them and it would be better for everyone else, unless some miracle could happen that would just say this is over and it's never going to happen. But nothing's happened that gives us the indication that we're in hospice right now.
No. Zero has happened that indicates anything other than everybody who has seen the show has given extremely positive feedback.
Yeah.
Everybody likes it. We've got something.
I'm so tired
I would
of
love
this.
to try to convince you. I don't think I can, but maybe with the baby coming, I'm going to get a little
Convince
external
me
help.
what?
This show, the entire first season, is going to go.
Okay, so what are you trying to convince
One way
me of?
or the other.
What are you
I
trying to
think you
convince-
should start writing.
No, I by the way, I was no, I don't have a problem with that. I was going to
Because-
write episode 3 because I'm really getting into it, and I actually think sometimes, because when I started the show, I was writing really Kevin Connolly's life with this new baby and all this stuff, and now it's my life, and it's coming so real now, and I actually know, unlike some of those, you know, I mentioned this earlier, but someone said, oh, someone had a similar idea to 40. It's not about the ideas. And again, it's not that I'm a better writer than anyone that I'm talking about. It's my POV on the way I see the world.
Yeah.
And I now really know how to write. Unlike trying to guess what was going through Connolly's head when he's having a baby in his 40s, I now am feeling all of this. And I know it's going to be really good stuff to write. That type of scenario that is not going to feel like one of those classic sitcoms. It's going to feel really real, and these situations are real. So I'm days away from having a baby, and I'm not going to lie, I am freaking out. Not because I don't love my kids and didn't love that process, because the biggest thing, which I think will really resonate in this show, is you want to be alive for your children, and you want to make those milestones. And when you hit 54 years old, and Conley hates when I go dark.
I just feel like you're going to be one of those guys that lives to be 8,000 years old.
I just hope I'm a healthy 8,000.
He's the original Abraham from
Doug
the Bible.
is just going to live and live.
But do you know what my friend
and everybody
did?
around him is going to be breaking themselves against him.
But you know what my friend did the other day, which is midlife crises are a real thing. And whether midlife is 30, 50, 60, whatever it is. I have a friend who's fabulously wealthy. Life seems to be everything that you would want. It all seems perfect. And I was with me and 3 of my pickleball friends who don't have a lot of money, great people, but they don't have a lot of money, and they have all of those stresses in life that most people have. And the very wealthy guy, who I will not mention who he is, he comes over, we're around a fire pit, and this is sort of terrible. We're all, I think, animal people or insect people, whatever you want. But there was some type of maybe a grasshopper or something that was next to the fire pit, and he came over and he just kind of flicked it into the fire pit, and we were all like,
what the hell?
Oh my God, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, why would he do that?
You know what? And he said it, and it was really poignant and awful and sad. And he looked at it. He wasn't thinking I was doing
a praying mantis.
He said no, because then you go to jail. He said I was saving it, and I was like, huh? And he goes, I was saving it from...
No, so much for not going dark, huh?
He was saving
from
it
a life,
from the awfulness of the universe.
Existence.
And everyone...
For a grasshopper? Guy's got a brain the size of the head of a pen. He's happy as can be.
I'm telling you, it was one of the... It was very dark and also something... real black comedy, but it was real, and I saw him, and I sat down with him after.
Did everybody laugh? I mean, I think I might.
No, they went right,
but that might
everyone looked at him and
jar a uncomfortable laugh out of me.
No, but everyone, he was not. That's what my point. He was not trying to get a laugh.
No,
he was not trying to be cruel.
He was
literally
being honest.
in a very dark, depressive state.
I'm saving him.
And honestly, I'm seeing a lot of that in people right now. I think this whole COVID thing is balanced people's thoughts and feelings and while money, and I wrote this line in 40, which is a tragedy, it'll never exist, but money cannot buy happiness, but also I wrote happiness cannot buy money. And the truth is I think people are reassessing now after this 4 years of what is the purpose? What is it that you really want to do? Which is where I'm at. Yeah. Of course I need money, and especially after now that I'm having a baby, money issues that I didn't think about for a couple of years now, of all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I got to make sure this kid's all right. I got to make sure I can pay for college, if college even exists in 20 years. Yeah. But money is not the answer. The answer is finding purpose and doing something you love. And 1 year ago today, or a week from now, I started writing, and we went into production. And I'll be honest, it was the best 3 months professionally I've ever had.
For me, it was the best time of my entire life.
Yeah, and it wasn't just because we had no people, no bosses, because we were all in it together. And whether Kevin Connolly had an idea or fucking Stock Tip Dave, maybe your ideas didn't make it. But we listened to everything from everyone who was involved. We analyzed it in a way creatively rather than people jamming it down our throats. And we did something that I know is incredibly special. But now
it was a special 7 or 8 days. It was literally not like working at all.
So chime in on that, because you've been working in this business for 40 years. What for you? How does it rank?
Yeah, no, it was great for all the reasons that you talked about. And again, it's not to say that we didn't have anybody to answer to, but we didn't. Really, at the end of the day.
But also not just the production process, the script process. Me, Kevin.
Casting.
Me, Kevin,
script,
Kevin, Charlie. No, not Kevin, Kevin. Me, Kevin, Charlie, and Ted sat down 90 days before production, and we went through every line of that script, and everybody contributed to it. Yeah. And that, to me, again, if Ted was throwing out shit that I thought was legitimately terrible, I would say, Ted, you
got to stop talking.
You got to stop talking.
No, Doug said that before I ever started talking.
Yeah.
He's like, Ted, you can't talk. And I was like, what?
The truth of the matter is, and this might be something that's potentially working against us, is that we really did it outside the system. And that's just not how it goes. And that might be part of the problem. I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, look, I'm as frustrated or as I I don't know what the word is, concerned
Cuckold?
about the no, I wouldn't go that far, about the outcome. I have zero doubt. And I feel like what's happening is the way things have been getting done in this business, they're changing too. And at this very moment, my thoughts about this are pretty simple. The reason why I put in the money wasn't because I said, boy, what if nobody buys it? What if nobody wants to make it? I never thought that. Because what I thought was, if everybody decides to pass on it, we're going to put it out ourselves. Because today, with the technology, who needs anybody else? Today, a musician, like you said, Taylor Swift, did an entire album herself during COVID when no one could even be in the room with her.
Yeah.
You don't, and yes, you need people to be around together and act and be in the same room and all that. But barring that, you don't need a platform. You just need people who are interested and value your product.
All I told you from the get-go is we needed those eyeballs. It's why, and it's it's not easy. And Adam Waheed, who's in our show, we know what he's done. He makes these funny little clips on Instagram. He's got, 40 million followers.
Put it behind a paywall.
But we just, in my opinion, you need the 40 million followers. You can't have what we have, which is a few 100,000. And that's been my mantra for almost 5 years. How do you build this social media thing when it's not really our thing? And I don't want to sit there and create. Again, I love what Adam's doing. I don't want to sit there and create little movies all day.
Yeah, well, you're also not 30 years old anymore and seeing the world from that specific perspective. And your perspective will
but I
be
mean,
different.
whatever it is. I mean, there's 60-year-olds who the guy from Will and Grace made a splash on Instagram during the pandemic. Some people do it. It's just not my thing. I like to write long form stories and blah blah blah. But more and more, Kevin, you weren't here when I was talking about this. I was thinking like a call Mark Cuban, who's in the show, who I love, who also just bought a pro pickleball team. I've said this to you. Everyone
skip this part of the story.
No, I see I see the future before it happens, and we're going to get into a little pickleball before the Sunday. But we get on Shark Tank, and I do what I do. I go pitch but I pitch it basically to America, which what I was saying before you got here is my friend did the dude robe, and it didn't even get a deal at Shark Tank, but it's such a big audience that the world got to decide, I want to buy this product.
Yeah, they used to call it the Oprah effect. Like if you were on Oprah, your book was the number one seller, even if it was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Like on Shark Tank.
By the way, not to bring it back to Kissing a Fool, but James Fry wrote the original. James Fry, whoever doesn't know, wrote a book called A Million Little Pieces that Oprah put him on. It was about drug addiction. He claimed it was about his life and it was a true story. Oprah made it this big thing, and it became, honestly, one of the biggest books of the year that year. And then it turned out he didn't actually write. It wasn't based on reality, so he got in some trouble. But he wrote the original version of Kissing a Fool, the first draft. So you're right. If you get to that audience, and if I walked on the set of Shark Tank with Kevin Connolly, Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen, and said, here's the first season, this is what we need.
But not me. Ugh.
Yeah, well, of course you.
Would it be weird if you called Cuban and asked him if we want to come on Shark Tank and pitch a TV show?
Well, I've actually thought about it because I think it's a really interesting way to go about this. And then you go, I know millions of people who go, what's happening here? Like people who've never, ever heard of Entourage are going, wait, Charlie Sheen's in the show. We make a great trailer, which I've wanted to make for a while. We show a trailer of this.
Well,
I tell them about the season.
We made a lousy trailer.
We made a God. we haven't even talked about that.
We didn't do it.
I paid someone to do a trailer, and when I tell you how this person harassed me to get paid for this, which I would never not pay somebody, but in giant letters, Kevin Connolly spelled incorrectly by this editor, and I just went.
He's fired.
We haven't told you this yet.
No, but I knew before it started that here's a person who put no time and no dedication,
pays no attention to detail.
Because the only time I've ever heard something like that happen is when Stock Tip Dave put Wayne Gretzky's name spelled wrong in one of our clips. So, right, Dave? Is that a true story?
That was a horrible.
Was it with an I or an S?
With an S.
He spelled it Gretzky with 3 E's at the end. So, but I just. Me, and I need to say this too, I never signed up to be the guy that was going to go out and sell this. I was like, I will give all of my services for free and I will put my life and soul into this thing. But I didn't have a representative at the time, and I kind of still don't, even though it's my old agent that now is sort of representing this, even though that
What's he have to say?
Nothing. 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 It's like, we had Kevin's representative is one of the biggest in town. Love the show. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then they vanish. And the next thing I know, I see them, in Ibiza, with Tiesto. I mean, it's just like I don't know what's happening.
Look, people focus on what pays their bills. And when they've got their bills paid, whatever those may be, they do the other things that they want to do for their recreation, like everybody else. This happens to be, especially for you, especially for me. I think I speak for other people, Connolly included. This is a big deal for us. This is something that we want to see happen. We all put our heart, our soul, our money, everything into this project. It's going to come down to us.
Yeah.
It's not going to come down to a person who this is the 19th thing that they were even just talking about this month.
And by the way, that is a learning lesson for everyone in the business, because this is nothing new. When Entourage was at the top of the game and we were getting nominated for Emmys, I would be like, I can't believe my agent doesn't do this or doesn't do that. Nothing's changed. It's the same shit. And you're right, because they're busy.
Yeah.
They have 1,000 clients and 1,000 things happening, and this is one of 1,000. And the truth is, Entourage slipped by the fucking, it was so close to not going, and it became whatever history wants to try to rewrite it. It is still HBO's most popular half hour of the last 20 years by ratings and by the amount of Emmys and everything else that we were given for that show. But it barely got on the air because when people in their small little home and their groups, it's their job and their livelihood, they're watching it in very different ways. Okay, is our audience going to like this? Is this the right moment for that? And all of that stuff. So they have 8 million things going on. And what do you think of the name Khaleesi? Because I don't have a name for this child. Is that ridiculous? Do you think Khaleesi is ridiculous?
Dragons.
Yeah, but I'm hoping by the time this child, I'm hoping by the time this child was 5, people would sort of forget it was Game of Thrones name, but I don't know. And I don't know what kids...
What if the sequel really pops off?
Well, also what happened apparently...
I do like it because you could call her Callie for short,
there's a lot of short names.
California.
And apparently
By
the way, that was on the list for us.
Was it really?
What was on the list?
I like a name with derivatives.
Callie was on the list?
Yeah, I mean,
Khaleesi.
I don't know that with Khaleesi, but Callie's a cool name.
Callie's a very cool name.
I like that a lot.
Well, Khaleesi, though, apparently, it was a hugely popular kid's name, and then season 8, she went and burned the city and killed everybody, and then all of a sudden, people who had their kid named Khaleesi were
like,
embarrassed.
Oh, God. Started really changing the name.
Whoops.
Callie legally.
# mistake.
Yeah, and I hate to even bring this up because I love Kobe, and I don't know what happened, but I love Kobe Bryant. And I named after the first playoff that Kobe Bryant played in, which he played absolutely horrifically. I loved everything about his audacity, and that he threw up 2 air balls. So I named my German Shepherd Kobe, and then Kobe was accused of rape, and I had a young child, and I would walk to the park with this beautiful German Shepherd, and everyone would look at me like, "What's the dog's name?"
Like Shep. Dog's name is Shep.
Well, it's fun. It's funny just on that topic. So I was in Vegas for a couple of days, Thursday to Saturday.
Yeah,
and you and I have never talked about this, but I had a dream, probably 10 to 15 years ago, that I have 4 children in real life. I was having a 5th child. I had a dream, as opposed to distinguishing from my dream.
Yeah.
I had a dream that I had a 5th child. It was a girl, and her name was Vivian.
Okay, that's my aunt.
So, and I don't know why I gravitated towards that name. I think maybe something about Pretty Woman, put it in the back of my psyche.
Are you suggesting that for me? What?
Well, what I'm suggesting is, I sit down at the blackjack table. And the dealer is a female. She's a very pretty Asian woman who's dealing, and the table goes hot, and I'm starting to win some money, but her hair is long and it's covering her name tag. And as the deck ends, and I go, well, that was a good one. She kind of brushes her hair aside, and it moves her
slow motion.
Moves her tag, like a Perel commercial, and moves her tag, and her name is Vivian.
Okay,
so. Pick something that means something to you from somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's one of my issues. So I have a couple of things, and I'll say it, but
there's something in the universe that gives you those little pokes every once in a while.
Well,
that
two
says,
things.
Hey.
It gives me a little chills. Everybody, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a Twilight Zone episode that is so phenomenal, and I won't give away the ending.
Is that the one where the guy's on the wing banging the plane?
No. This is the one, but it is a plane involved. But this is the one where a famous actress is in a hospital, and every night she has a dream that she goes down to the morgue, and someone says, "Room for one more here." Anyway, the Twilight Zone's available, I believe, on Hulu. Find this episode. It's chilling, and I remember it from when I was like 9 years old. But what means a lot to me, and I'm battling this. Stevie Nicks is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love her. My daughter Maya, who the name Maya I love.
Yeah.
But my first initial instinct was to name her Stevie, but my ex-wife had an uncle named Stevie, so we didn't go with that. And now, because I still love Stevie Nicks.
He's not your wife's uncle anymore.
Well, that too. But 18 years later, I still love the name Stevie.
That's a great name for a girl.
But my daughter is like, you can't name a kid something that you almost named me, and I agree with her. So unfortunately, that name's
By the
out
way,
the window.
I don't agree with her.
Really?
Yeah, because here's the way I look at it. I had lots of original thoughts before my children ever appeared. They don't get to have an opinion on what my thoughts are. I named you Maya. It is not Stevie. It was never gonna be Stevie. You got Maya. Now I've got this. I've always loved the name. The only reason why I didn't do it the first time was because there was some connection with a woman I'm no longer involved with. Now it's mine. Like, it's back.
I don't want her to be upset. It would make me. It would
make you upset because she would be upset about it. You don't think it's something that she would just be like, the thought of it bothered me, but now I love her and she's my little sister.
You know what? I don't want to start off on a way that she has any negative thoughts about it. And again, that's not letting my child control the name, but I think it has a significant thing. But my new Stevie Nicks, and laugh all you want, people. I've been saying it for 7 years
Taylor
now.
Swift?
I love Taylor Swift. And I like the name Taylor.
Are you going to name her Swiftie?
I like the name Taylor. So anyway, everybody gives suggestions because it's like I got less than 10 days to go here. 10 days to go. So, and I really thought we would be in production.
By the way, that sounded, I closed my eyes and I'm like, Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon are sitting in a cell. I'm going down in 10 days.
I don't know.
That's
Oh, is that like Dead Man Walking? I don't. I love the movie, but I don't remember any of that.
Oh my god!
No, I didn't say. I didn't give any indication about the death.
Yeah, there's only
penalty.
There's only 10 days. What do you know? What date? Like, is it an actual date? Yeah.
Well, the due date was the 14th of December, but we're.
You don't think it's gonna?
I
go
know
that
it's
long.
not. So they're gonna schedule it like probably before the 1st of December. So
okay.
Anyone's got a good name, and don't give me nasty responses, but I am willing to listen to anything. So I've named a couple of my friends' kids, by the way. I've come up with.
What have
names.
you named them?
Jordana was one. Trying to think of the others. I mean, I actually had friends who they changed their daughter's name in the hospital. Like they called, and there's nothing worse than you telling someone your kid's name and they go, after they're born. But I was on the phone.
People do that.
I was on the phone.
Hey, Doug.
And, huh?
How about the name Dina? It starts with D like Doug.
Dinas?
Dina.
Well, first of all, I have no interest in glorifying myself with my child's name. I mean, I guess some people do that, but my mother's
Dougina.
My mother's name, which will probably be the middle name. My mother's name was June, which I actually love as a first name, but
it's very pretty.
As it is something that would be very uncomfortable about. My mother passed away about 10 years ago, so to name my child June Ellin would be very strange to me. But the middle name I love. But I also love my mother's middle name, which was Florence.
Really?
But my
you love that name for a girl?
Love and
really?
love. But Sarah thinks it's too old fashioned.
It sounds very old,
and she does not like the.
It also sounds like the maid from the Brady Bunch.
You're thinking of.
But it's the original.
The waitress
actress.
from Alice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Kiss
Flo.
My grits, Flo. And Sarah also does not like the nickname Flo. But Florence Pugh has become apparently this big star. I love the name Florence. It's my favorite city in the world. I don't think we're getting there. We're not getting Stevie. I love Taylor. I love Taylor Swift. It wouldn't be Taylor Swift. So
yeah.
Taylor June. I think that's a great name, and she could go on to be a country singer. So.
Yeah, that's a very drop the Ellin and it's Taylor June.
Yeah.
I see it in the marquee in Vegas.
So
right
anyway,
now.
we're there, but the fact is the depression of the child coming and this show not going is real. It's now really putting into perspective the time, because I really honestly believed we'd be in production and I'd go, guys, I'm sorry, Ted. Fucking take over with Dave Perkle. You have to finish directing this episode because I have to go to the hospital. I honestly would have bet that's where we would be right now. So I'm as everyone out there, young writers, directors know, town is a series of disappointments. It's a series of highs and lows. You have to manage them. There is no other options, with the exception of like 6 people in the world. Spielberg, Judd Apatow. Like it doesn't. Larry David, who's my hero idol. Larry David's career did not happen until he was like in his 40s. He was broke as could be before Seinfeld. Seinfeld almost got canceled. Seinfeld almost didn't get picked up, and you got to keep going. And I'm in no way comparing the show to Seinfeld, although
no, but I mean, I think your point is made. Like you have to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah,
you have to stick with it, and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and you also have to love it so much, because nothing is easy. Whatever anybody wants to think. Being a lawyer is not easy. Being a hedge fund guy, being a dentist, none of it is easy. But lots of those things, if you do them well, usually in your 50s, you know what your career is. You're not going, maybe I'll start something else right now because this isn't working out.
Well,
can't believe no one will give me any fucking, nobody will give me any root canal jobs anymore. All of a sudden, they're giving root canal jobs to the younger guy. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And we talked about this last week, and my buddy Mitch Krieger, you motherfucker, after we talked about how everybody just goes, what's happening with the show, which has happened. It's only 10 in the morning. I've already had 3 people. What's up with Ramble On?
By the way, that's like if somebody knows you have some sort of health concern, and then they see you don't mention it, but they say, so what'd the doctor say? It's like, if I wanted to talk about it, or if I had news or updates, don't you think I'd say it? What am I trying to keep it a secret? That the thing I've been pouring my life into for the last year is
Mitch,
going?
Right after last week's podcast, or 2 weeks ago, because we didn't do one last week, Mitch texts me, he goes, what's happening with the show? And I was like, and he goes, I'm kidding, I was listening to the podcast. So Mitch is listening, or Schwartzman's listening, whatever it is. But, it is the life I chose. You chose to become fabulously wealthy and make this a fucking hobby, and it really doesn't matter to you either way. So, you got anything else to talk about? Because I need to get into one other thing.
Well, we'll get into my background on next episode.
Okay, we'll get into Ted's background. The last thing I want to talk about is pickleball is exploding. The reason I point to it is because it has been 8 years that I've been talking about this, but I want to tell you what happened there, and people can laugh at me all they want. I promise you, anyone go out and play this sport, you just like ping pong, you can be older and have a good time doing it and play in a way that you could not do tennis. So tennis, it does require more athleticism, more whatever it is, but the athleticism in this sport will take you to a level that you cannot get to without it. But that being said, the Nationals of pickleball, biggest pickleball tournament, was at Indian Wells, where I'm living out in the desert now this week, and the best players in the world. One of the players got hurt, and one of the pros, who is a former Ryan Cherry Division I tennis player, which is, you play for University of Florida tennis, you're unbelievable.
You're a good player.
But you're a great player, and there's pros in this tournament, whatever. Anyway, his partner got hurt. He calls me at 10 o'clock at night. Do you want to play tomorrow? And I'm like, you're asking me to play in the pro level, which I played, just so you know. The winner of this tournament, Riley Newman, who is top 3 in the world right now in pickleball. 5 years ago, when pickleball was just coming, he was going to Kansas City. The only time I've ever played in a tournament, he called me up because, do you want to play in a pro tournament?
Riley.
Yeah. Who won the Nationals this week.
Yeah.
Did he win men's doubles? Definitely mixed with Anna Lee Waters. He wins. 5 years ago, he asked me to go to Kansas City and play with him. This is a 25-year-old kid who asks a 49-year-old. I wasn't even a D3 athlete. I barely played high school. I think I was 11 in doubles at John F. Kennedy High School in Merrick. So, he asked me to go, and I'm like, seriously? And we were like 4-3, which he was disappointed because he's like going to go on to be like the best in the world. But I felt great. I'm playing 25-year-olds and this.
You're like, boy, that's not a bad showing for me.
It was honestly, it was a very good showing, and none of them intimidated me at all. But anyway, he asked me to play, and I know people can laugh at this, but the tournament, they wouldn't let me play because you have to qualify. So,
how do you qualify?
You have to win certain tournaments or something, whatever it is. It's invite only, and they wouldn't let me go in. But the average
So
age,
it's not an open.
Well, it's open to who they invite. But the point is,
Open your invitation.
The point is that I almost got a chance to play against these pros in a real tournament, and everyone was talking, would you be nervous? No, I would not be nervous, and I would not play any differently. I would play exactly how I play, and the guys who are better than me, which I got to play with a lot of pros, and today I'm going to get to play with two of the best pros in the world, and I feel very good that at this age I'm able to, moderately compete with them and do a couple of things that would make them feel really bad about themselves. And as far as the pickleball team, which I believe we're finally going to get to talk about, that we're going to be involved with, and I'm tired of being so quiet about it, but am I not supposed to talk about it?
I don't know, but maybe by the time this airs, it won't matter.
I mean, it's ridiculous already. But anyway, we've watched Mark Cuban get involved since then, and the sport is really exploding. And I want to say it for all the people who send me nasty messages, you're old and you should learn how to play a real sport. It's a real sport. People are getting really injured now, and I don't mean like by contact injuries, but Achilles and knees. So there's real activity in this, but it's been a life-changing thing for me. And it's the only thing keeping me motivated while we sit here like assholes waiting for something to happen. So it's time for us to
No more waiting.
It's time for us to really get proactive. If something doesn't happen this week, we need to start getting proactive and get going. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. So Connolly
I will end with this.
Yeah.
It is Thanksgiving next week, and then there's just a couple weeks before Christmas. So
don't forget
we'll wait
Hanukkah,
and we'll wait until June 5th. But then it's Martin Luther King Day and President's Weekend. So see you in March.
It's crazy. Connolly, you got anything to add before we say goodbye?
No, Ted insists on blocking that second spot. He doesn't want to get blocked in. So
what are we
he
talking
backs
about?
in. Ted blocks the Dylan spot. Ted is going to have to deal with.
He's talking about the parking lot. You fucked Dylan's spot.
I don't know what Dylan's spot means. I parked in front of you, and since I knew you were going to be in here with me, I didn't think it was going to be a problem.
By the way, Ted's like, at this point, he's like, listen, I furnished this fucking place. I paid for the pilot. Nobody's giving me a dime. I'll park wherever I want.
Credenzas.
Couple credenzas.
All right, Kevin, I need you to give us something to go away with, some positivity.
Well, I was telling Steven in here, who came to see a couple podcasts, that victory will hopefully be a lot lighter.
Why, Steven, did you think of dark? By the way, we should talk about that for a second because we have a charity.
Yeah, I mean,
charity winner.
He's in here. You're talking about flicking crickets into the grasshoppers into an open flame. And
well, that was one.
By the way, I did not flick
that. Had nothing to do with Doug.
I would never do that. Number one, but number two, we have a charity winner here for cystic fibrosis is a important. Steven, what's the actual name of the charity again?
Emily's Entourage.
Emily's Entourage, which. Her brother is a student at Tulane, but one of my oldest friends from Merrick had cystic fibrosis when we were kids. He was not expected to live past 15 in 1975.
And now he has kids going to Tulane?
He is, different family, but he is now 56 years old. He's had a double lung transplant, but he is doing well, and he is a great
Same thing,
guy.
Gunnar Esiason, Boomer Esiason's son.
Yeah.
He's married, has a baby, so it's working and it's come a long way.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's a great cause.
And good. So good things are happening, and there are obviously people suffering much more than us waiting to find out if our show will get on the air. So
that grasshopper.
It's terrible, right?
That grasshopper.
The suffering is over, I think.
It was, honestly, he was not being mean. He was so in his own sad world. It was.
Well, you remember the James Brooks movie? I think you love, right?
Which one?
As Good as It Gets. He's walking out of through the waiting room from his therapist that he busted in on, and he looks at everybody, and they're all sitting there with desperation and depression and everything, and he goes, "What if this is as good as it gets?"
Yeah.
And there's silence, and then there's just this audible gasp from a woman who's like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Like what? And that's what that kind of reminds me of.
And the truth is, Woody Allen, Albert Brooks, have always done that humor, that
existential humor.
Yeah, that even like kind of when you're younger, you kind of don't get it. But the truth is, you do get to a point, and everybody find your things whenever you can, as early as you can, because when you get to 50 years old, I find you don't want to be retired sitting on your ass. You want to find purpose, and you want to do something that has some meaning to it.
Agree.
So hopefully we will, and I really mean this. Put it down in writing. Kevin Connolly, season 1. I guarantee will get nominated for an Emmy for this show. He just needs to figure out a way to get it on the air. So hopefully that will happen, and we'll be back. Ramble on.
Ramble on.